Today's video, I'm going to show you 3 easy steps to firing a client that you can do professionally and politely, and you're going to feel so good about. Oh, if you're anything like me, you wake up from a good night's sleep to go have a little scroll, and then you see a text from that client. Oh, I don't even want to deal with this today. Oh, and getting out of the shower, you've already played the scenario with this client in your head like 10 times, trying to figure out how to deal with them. What are they going to say? You can't even predict it all, and you're already exhausted, and the day hasn't even started. I can't tell you how many mornings have started this way for me. Dreading going into work, dreading seeing a client, and then I'm feeling bad because they're a lovely person, but they just stress me the F out. Kind of just wishing that they would just stop coming. So I know you've thought about this too, and sometimes you've thought like it would just be nice to fire a client, but I don't know how to do it. Or maybe it's a completely different scenario where someone is being completely not reasonable. And you just need to figure out a way, like they keep coming back and you're like, what? I don't understand. So today's video, I'm going to show you 3 easy steps to firing a client that you can do professionally and politely, and you're going to feel so good about. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe and that bell to make sure that you get my new videos each and every Monday. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so step 1 is recognizing that a big part of this fear of yours for executing firing client is your fear of confrontation. You're scared of having an honest conversation. I get it. Confrontation is scary. I spent most of my life trying to avoid conversations because I don't actually know why. I was scared of how they may react. And oftentimes I tried to predict the 10 million different scenarios that could happen. By the time it went to have the conversation, I was too exhausted. The fear of confrontation, that's what it came down for me, was realizing that I was scared of not being able to control the conversation, and so I backed away from it. The fear of confrontation and not knowing the predictability of the outcome. I would spiderweb into all these different ideas of like, okay, if I say this, then they'll say this. But then what if they say this, then I'd say this. And then they might say this, but then what if they say this or this or this? And my mind would be so filled with all these 101 million different possibilities of way it could go that it was just easier not to do it. It was just easier to stay upset and frustrated and angry and resentful or feeling disrespected than to actually try to maneuver through it. I know how scary it is. I know you're scared that someone might think you're being a total right? That someone's going to misunderstand what you're saying, that they're going to be like, can you believe? And what will they say to their friends? And what? I know all the what ifs. And so recognizing that you have a nervousness and a fear and anxiety around confrontation is step number 1, but I want you to reframe it. It's not confrontational. We've all been in those moments where someone's come straight at us and been like, hey, you said this, or what's going on with this? And we feel like we've been jolted and we've been shocked. And because we've been on the receiving end of that, we never want to put someone else in that position. And that's why I like you. And that's why I like that you're watching this video right now, because you get it and you don't want to do that to anyone. So I want you to reframe having this conversation. Instead of thinking it's confrontational and that you have to maybe uninvite someone back to the salon or tell them you're not giving them their free fix or that you're letting them go as a client. You don't need to come out and slap something on them. And oftentimes when we're nervous or anxious, we kind of blurt things out. So when it comes to having that conversation, I want you to take a deep breath before, and I want you to slow down. And I want you to remind yourself, you're not being confrontational, you're just being honest. On to step 2 is recognizing you're not doing something to them or at them. You're doing something for them. Everything that you do in your business, whether you're professionally and politely firing a client or anything else, I want you to remember this motto: to do everything with kindness, compassion, and empathy. Showing your clients you're not doing something to them or at them, but you're doing it for them. Now, hold up, Dawn. I know you're thinking like, how the heck do you tell a client you're firing them and you're doing something for them? Well, here's a great story. I actually did this not too long ago. I had a client that kept coming back, wanting fixes, unhappy with their hair, and I was kind of at the point where I'm like, why do you even want me to do your hair? Like, I kind of felt confused, and I know you've been in a similar position of like, why do they keep coming back when they always seem unhappy? So I want you to remember this scenario, this story I want to tell you. So I had this client that was unhappy, wanted fix over, but I could just tell that there was no way I could make her happy, and it was causing me a lot of stress, and obviously she wasn't happy with her hair. So I ended up saying to her, like, hey, you deserve to love your hair, and it really matters to me that you love your hair. And so what I'm going to have to do moving forward is suggest that you go somewhere else to get your hair done so that you can get taken care of the way you deserve to get taken care of, because I'm not able to do that and provide that for you. There's one way of doing it, letting them know, or you could even, if you work in a salon with other people, say, hey, this person's really good at this technique that you're wanting, and I can tell that you deserve to be happy, and I can tell you that you're unhappy. And so this will be our last appointment together, and moving forward, you could go see, Susan or Allie or Sarah, or, this salon here specializes in this. And I've had some students say to me before, but like, what if you don't want to refer them anywhere? I get it. There's always those clients, right? That you're like, I couldn't wish this client on anyone. But I want you to remember, it takes away their rebuttal and their argument of like, no, but I want to see you. By telling them that you want them to be happy and their happiness matters to you, and that you want to make sure they're taken care of. Therefore, this is where the relationship ends. You wish them all the best. You can't wait to bump into them and see them around, but that they will get better taken care of elsewhere. That is a exact way that you can show them that you're doing something for them rather than to them or at them. It also takes away the anxiety for you of having to tell them you're no longer going to do their hair anymore. I know the fear of that conversation, it even being an honest conversation, is I don't want to just be like, I don't want to do your hair anymore, or I'm not doing your hair anymore. When you show them that you're doing it for them rather than to them or at them, it makes a world of a difference. I've done this in 2 scenarios. Now, will their feelings be hurt? Will they maybe be upset? Quite possibly. I hate to say that, but this really keeps you in control of the scenario. A lot of times when we're trying to show them or tell somebody something and we're scared of that honest conversation and we don't know, we feel like we're going to do something to them or at them, so we often get a little bit elusive in our words. We hope they read between the lines, and oftentimes people don't. We can't assume that people are going to read between the lines. You need to be clear, and that's why, I heard something the other day, being clear is being kind. And I think that's so true. And I know that, I know I keep saying I know that fear because I can feel those moments that I've been through before right now as I'm sharing this with you. Show them that you care about them, that you care about their hair, that you care that they're happy. And so and you know what, you might actually be releasing them. Maybe they've felt this weird internal obligation on their own part, and they've been kind of wanting to go somewhere else, and you've been wanting them to go somewhere else, and you both just kind of are both like caught in this middle feeling of like, I don't want to hurt each other's feelings. So remember, just like burn this into your mind. You're doing it for them, not to them or at them. And when you do things with kindness, compassion, and empathy. So that empathy is really important. Like, I remember a time when I wasn't loving my hair. I remember a time with how much that impacted the way I showed up every day. And it bums me out so hard to know that you don't like your hair right now, or you're not feeling confident in your hair. And the last thing I want to do is, try to fix it when I'm not feeling like I'm the right person to do this. So what I'm going to do, and then XYZ, you're going to take care of them. You've set this up. You've looked into this salon. You have this person, whatever it is, and that is going to ease your anxiety. You're going to feel comfortable. You're going to feel confident, and you're going to know that you took care of them. You still can't control how they react. Unfortunately, I wish there was a way I could say, like, this is exactly how you could make them walk away with a smile on their face and a skip in their step. But you know that you can feel good about it, and if you were to bump into them, you could feel good and confident about how the relationship ended. And also, the one thing I say is when you're communicating with them, I always say do it face to face if you possibly can, or over the phone. But if you have to do it through text or email, write that thinking, if they're going to show this to someone else, how can I make sure I feel good about it? So remove the emotion from it so that you can feel good about someone else seeing this interaction. You're doing it for them, not to them or at them. And step 3 is recognizing that the anxiety that you're feeling is all in the anticipation. I've sat on my bed many mornings endlessly scrolling, hoping that I can get this anxiety out of my head of having to go to work. I can't tell you how many years that occupied my brain for so many mornings. And the weight of the world felt like it was on me every single morning. Like, what's going to happen today? What client's coming in? Who's going to be unhappy? And it came from over the past almost 20 years in this industry of having these moments that took me by surprise, that I thought they loved their hair, and then I got a text later, and this, and this. And I really, a side note, please stop texting with your clients. I teach this inside of my programs. Try to get them on email so that your phone doesn't become a source of anxiety for you all the time. So that when you hear that ding and when you see that text message pop up, I got to the point, and if you don't know my story, I ended up in the ER with a stress-induced panic attack because of all the stress and anxiety that I was putting on myself for work. But it got to the point where I would see a text message pop up and my heart would start palpitating out of fear of, is that a client that's unhappy? I had had a couple traumatic events. I had had a client's hair melt off. I've had clients yell at me inside my home when I was working from home. I've had someone told me they hate their hair, ask if it's too early to go somewhere else. Like, there's been more happy clients than that though, right? And Nick actually reminded me once about, like, why are you focusing in on this one person that's upset? Think of the hundreds of people that have been happy. But I know you're like me, and that anxiety just like occupies 99.9% of our brain, and all the positive things just like end up in this tiny little corner, like right up here, that we forget about. And so I want you to know that I found this hack to that anxiety. And so the anxiety is in the anticipation of the event. The anxiety is in trying to control the future, right? Anxiety lives in the future. And so when we just jump the gun, I don't know if that's the right saying. When we just go and jump before we know how to land, that anxiety diminishes. Okay, this is a true story, and it's kind of embarrassing, but I remember when I was 19, I was like sitting on my bed in the apartment that I was living in, and I had a crush on this boy, and I wanted to call him because we didn't have cell phones then. And I remember sitting there being like, okay, I'm going to say this when I call him, and then if he says this, then I'll say this. And kind of that spider web that I was talking about before, trying to control. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. I think I figured out every situation. I'm not gonna, I'm sweating. I think I had to change my shirt 3 times. I sweat through it. And then all of a sudden I realized he lives with roommates. What if one of his roommates answers the phone? And then I had to start mapping out the whole scenario again. And it just flooded me with this anxiety of this anticipation of wanting to know exactly what's gonna happen. I always say, I wanna zoom out to the future, go see what happens, and come back and tell me what the right thing to do is. Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be just boop, a button. Okay, cool, come back. But that's not reality. What ended up happening with that phone call is I had dialed in the 7 digits. It's I just gotta do it. And I pressed the last one and I just forced myself into it. I jumped in. I didn't know how it was going to play out. But I'll tell you, as soon as that phone started to ring and as soon as someone picked up, that anxiety was gone because now I was in it and I had to step through it. The best way to get that anxiety gone is to deal with it head on and face to face. Start the conversation. And so if you're having to fire a client, you can just start off with hey, I've noticed that you haven't been loving your hair lately. And then you move forward. And what happens is that anxiety is, like I said, in the anticipation, it's in the trying to plan out every little step. Just instead of trying to plan everything out, and I know there's some of you guys that are huge planners, and so you plan and replan and overplan and plan and plan and plan, and then you never actually do the thing. And I think that's one of my superpowers is I don't plan, and I'm slightly disorganized. But the less you plan, the less you stress. And so instead of planning, just putting your mind in I want to take care of this person, I want to be clear with this person, I want to be honest with this person, and I want to take deep breaths and go slow. Don't rush into an answer, but just step into the moment. I can't tell you how important that is. I've learned, it's I don't know if you've ever gone skydiving. All this fear was the night before I couldn't sleep, driving out to the site, I was shaking, getting in the plane, I was really nervous, looking out, me and my dad were in this tiny little plane. Oh my gosh, and they said, if you don't jump out and we have to go down, you're not coming back up. My dad, you have to go out first because they're on your back. My dad's halfway out. You can they open the door, you can hear the wind. I don't know if you've ever been in an airplane 10,000 feet in the air and they open a door. Even though you know you're going to be jumping out of a plane, it's super scary. And my dad looks over at me and goes, I love you. And then whew. And I think I laughed and cried at the same time. And then it was my turn, and I was it looked like my dad got sucked out of this plane. I can't see him anymore. It's my turn. I'm crawling to the front, and the guy's like, "Okay, put your feet out the door." And it's like, then all of a sudden you like, you know when you stick your hand out the window of a car, like it just like gets pushed, like all of a sudden I feel my feet get moved and I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, "Put your head on my shoulder." 3, 2, 1. My heart is like beating out my chest. My stomach's in my throat. Like I'm feeling it all. And then we go out and instantly it's gone. Like it's instantly this euphoric moment. It's so loud. It's quiet. I'm trying to soak it all in, but I can't tell you, it was like euphoria is the only way I can explain it. It was like joy and like awe. And so that is the best way I can explain like this anxiety and fear we have about having these conversations, is all that anxiety, that stress will go away instantly as soon as you get into the conversation. If you just meet the conversation head on, you meet that moment head on, it will melt away. If I teach a lot more of this inside of my Rock Your Business program, which is opening up for enrollment in January, I invite you to go check out the link below. You can look at the wait list and get on that. There's no expectation or obligation to join my program, but if this sounds familiar and relatable to you, I want to help you. I want to be your mentor. See what my community is all about. I know that stress and anxiety is real, and I know how much it can affect not just our work, but our day-to-day lives. I want you to tell me in the comments what one of these 3 steps feels good and feels right. Like, start a conversation in the comments. I want to help you more with being able to show up more confidently in your business, being able to fire those clients politely and professionally. I am here for you. I don't want you to have to go through what I've had to go through. And I'm so glad that you joined me for this. I hope you took something away. Let me know what you loved about this video, or maybe what you didn't love about this video. And while you're here, check out these videos here. I have picked these for you. I think you're gonna love them.